Hi, everyone, and welcome to Dementia Unplugged. I'm sorry for the delay initially. There was some technical difficulties, but we're going to speak today about ways to reduce personal stress as a care partner. And I'm so glad you joined the call and for your patience. Just when you think you have this under control, things happen. All right. So before we get into the meat of this program, I am going to share a word from our president, Kevin Jameson.
Welcome. Please listen to this important message from the Dementia Society of America. All content, including any potential medical information, is provided as an informational resource only and is not to be used or relied on for any diagnostic or treatment process. It should not be used as a substitute for professional diagnosis, care, and treatment. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any healthcare decisions or for guidance about a specific medical condition. The opinions expressed and the content shared by Dr. Forrest are not necessarily the opinions and content of the Dementia Society of America. Thank you.
So before we get started, I'd like to just give an overview of what dementia is. And consider it as sort of an umbrella term. Just like there are many different types of cancers, there are at least 100 different types of conditions that can produce a dementia. And so, at least within the United States, the four top ones that you more readily recognize or maybe more aware of are Alzheimer's disease, Lewy body dementia, vascular frontotemporal dementia. However, personal stress can certainly emerge from being a care partner, and you may see the difference that we use the word care partner, at least in the beginning stages when there is less sort of hands-on direct care, and caregiver when more assistance is needed in sort of everyday activities of living. So we're going to use this more broadly and just say that stress can impact one as a family provider. And I have been in that situation multiple times, but also as a healthcare provider. All right, so I'm showing a slide right now of this frog just sitting in a pod of potentially boiling water. And when one is undergoing personal stress, this is the image I often have in my head. Initially, life seems to be okay. You're just doing what you need to do, trying to get through the day, trying to understand what's happening and to adjust. But sometimes it reaches a boiling point and we don't know it until it's ready to bubble over. Maybe some of you can relate to that, but that certainly has been my experience, where I didn't really realize how stressed I was until it was almost too late. So what are the signs and symptoms of care-related stress? I've listed those in no particular order. Some of you may be experiencing one or two, some may be experiencing them all at once, but let me share those with you so that you are more aware of what personal stress really looks and feels like. One becomes more irritable, more anxious. You can see a change in sleeping pattern, either sleeping less or more. You may have more unexplained body aches and pains and headaches. In terms of weight, it can go either way, either weight loss or weight gain, but it's often more sudden and unintentional. Some may try to numb these feelings of anxiety and irritability through alcohol or drug use or even prescription drug use. There's a sense of just persistent fatigue and exhaustion that just doesn't seem to go away. And out of this, you may find yourself not able to concentrate as readily as you once have. There may be periods of sort of memory loss, which only can feed into the anxiety, especially if you are a care partner for someone who is experiencing memory loss through their dementia. And then you can start to worry even more, oh my goodness, is this happening to me? You can be easily triggered, just a hair trigger to be angry, outbursts that normally don't happen. And so this sort of long laundry list is really well acknowledged in the literature and research and personal experience. So eventually, if this is sustained over time, there really are negative outcomes of persistent stress. And that could be more chronic anxiety, more chronic depression. Ultimately, it does take a toll on your whole immune system. And ultimately, not always, but in some situations, death can occur from the ongoing unmitigated stress. I've worked with families in which the care partner has ended up, in the ICU through heart attacks from not recognizing this unrelieved stress. So part of our, goal today is really to make you more aware and more sensitive and how common this is. So you're not alone if this is something that you're experiencing. So we're going to really talk about ways to reduce this personal stress. And I have to point out that it isn't just one answer. There's just not one way to do it. It really does require a mix of really intentional understanding and sort of interventions that use both your mind, body, and your spirit. So first of all, I can't highlight this enough or stress this enough, that one has to view stress reduction or self-care as a priority. As healthcare, as care partners, caregivers, I find that we tend to put everyone else first. And often it's the person we're caring for or with that has some form of dementia. And so we put all the needs for that person first. And so that seems to intuitively make sense, but in the long haul, this is a marathon, it doesn't make sense at all. Because if you've heard the phrase, put on your own oxygen mask first in order to help someone else, this certainly is an example of that. You can't last very long if you are draining your own gasoline tank without refilling it. So one of the strategies to reduce personal stress is really to become educated about dementia and its various forms. And so you're doing that. The Dementia Society of America on the website has multiple resources that you can read. The fact that you're listening to this webcast is important, I think. And you may or may not know that they have been pre-recorded, so you can always go back to the library, re-listen, or they're on YouTube as well. So there are many different topics. But you want to learn as much as you can. The idea here is you want to understand in order to potentially anticipate changes that are sort of expected for the disease trajectory or for the journey ahead. Another important facet here is to learn how to accept help. Not only ask for it, you can ask, but when people give it, I find that people kind of wait to the last minute or wait until they're drowning in that boiling water before one will accept help. So accept help early on. That's going to help you for the duration and to reduce your own personal stress. Another mode that has been helpful is journaling. And one can write down certainly what you're learning, but the frustrations experienced. But I'm going to encourage you to add an additional column in your journal that includes what you're grateful for throughout the day, or if you do it weekly. What elements, what part of life are you grateful for? And that's going to show up in a little while when I talk about research and reduction of personal stress. But yes, we can all get bogged down in what is changing, what we perceive as what we're losing. And this can sort of bog down our feelings and thinking into sort of a downward spiral, which also increases our stress. So I'm going to encourage you daily to have a reflection on what you're grateful for through this journey. Exercise. Of course, we hear this all the time. But if you can get in 30 minutes of walking, it doesn't have to be marathon, jogging, but 30 minutes of some aerobic activity to the point where perhaps you're unable to communicate or talk on a sort of a regular level. That will really help to decrease sort of the stress hormones, the cortisol that's built up in our system when we're stressed. So daily exercise will help with your stress, but it needs to be ongoing and routine. This is where you learn how to prioritize your needs in order to sustain this journey. Eat well. Well, another one, right? We hear this over and over again. But what we're learning is how food can be thy medicine. In a way, what we put in, what we fuel our body with in terms of food and actually what we drink is a source of energy, or it could drain our energy or add to the stress hormones. So eating well, lots of fruits and vegetables, more plant-based. You might hear of the Mediterranean diet. This is not only good in terms of stress reduction, but it also is one of the elements of what we are learning in terms of preventing cognitive decline, if that's a concern of yours. Practice breathing exercising, breathing exercises, mindful meditation. Now, for those of you where this is new, or this might seem new age or just unrealistic, there is a lot of science along to the use of breath and decreasing cortisol and stress hormones in the body. You do this through yoga. Mindful meditation just means, or mindfulness meditation just means paying attention to the present moment. So until I started practicing mindfulness meditation, I was constantly worried about what didn't happen yesterday, or all of my to-do list tomorrow, or even later on in the day. And I spent little time being grateful or just being aware of what was happened presently. And so mindfulness meditation is one in which helps you do that. So another strategy. If possible, I would encourage you to receive a routine massage. This can get a little pricey. You might want to enlist the help of a special friend, a spouse, a partner, to at least relax your shoulders. This is an area that we have a lot of tension that can be built in when we're under stress. And so receiving routine massages is another form of self-care, but it really does help to relieve some of that, those body aches that I talked about as one of the symptoms of stress. Here's another strategy: create order or succeed at small tasks. What do I mean by that? It means do something that you can accomplish and feel like immediate gratification. This can be in the form of making your bed, doing a little cleaning, something where you can begin and end a task and see that it's accomplished. Reason being that when you are a care partner or provider, someone with dementia, quite often it feels chaotic and can be quite unpredictable at times. So doing something where you feel like there is some order really is a mental and physical exercise to reduce stress. Sleep. Sleep 7 to 8 hours a day. Now, if you find yourself, sleeping 14, 15 hours, which is sometimes unrealistic when caring for someone with dementia, that could be problematic and a symptom, perhaps, of depression. But sleep restores a lot of hormones and reduces stress hormones in your body. So sleep is another important strategy. Socialization. You may feel less like reaching out, but this is the important part of when people say, hey, call me if I can help you, if there's something I can do. Take them up on it. Go out to a movie or just talk to someone on the phone. The more isolated one becomes, the more stress can develop. So use your friends in this positive way. We are social beings, and the more isolated, the more lonely we become, the more stressed we become. So it becomes a vicious cycle. So reach out to your friends. Spend time in nature. There's more and more work being done on how important it is to be out where it's green or where there's water, where you can spend time just recognizing that there's a world bigger than ourselves, so we can take deep breaths and appreciate just the beauty around us. And it settles our mind. Even better if you can take walks, in nature, exercise in nature. Take your dogs for a walk in nature. Spending time intentionally in nature is now recognized as an effective way of reducing stress. And then we kind of look to the more spiritual or existential examination of stress in our body. And one way to do that is to find meaning in this caregiving, care partnering experience. This could be more formally through one's faith tradition, or recognizing, the larger world and universe. But the idea is to find meaning, not just a why me, why is this happening, but how can I use this experience perhaps for the better? One person who you may be familiar with, who is really recognized for finding meaning in difficult situations, is Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a prisoner in the Nazi concentration camps in 1946, he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And out of that horrendous situation, he has taught us that the actual search for meaning is a way to endure hardships. And so, what is it that you are learning from this experience that perhaps can take you to a different place? How can you change your attitude, perhaps? Because that's what he focuses on, that, you know, things and possessions and lots of things can be taken from you, but how you frame this experience under any set of circumstances is something that cannot be taken away as the care provider or partner. Participate in support groups. This can be done in person. Some care partners and caregivers find, you know, the time constraints can be a little more anxiety provoking. That's where it comes in asking your friends for help to spend time with a person with dementia so you can attend these. But if not, there's online support groups that have been useful. And I'm just going to name three. There's the Family Caregiver Alliance, and I do have their number available on screen for those of you who are looking at that. Rosalind Carter Institute for Caregiving, and AARP. It's a retired association program. So there are multiple support groups, but those are just three. So the American Association of Retired People or Persons is ARP. And lastly, I want to pull this together and talk about a study that has just been completed in August of 2019. And it's called the Life Enhancing Activities for Family Caregivers, abbreviated as the LEAF study. Life Enhancing Activities for Family Caregivers. This was completed at Northwestern University, which is in near my hometown. And care partners were divided by just sort of usual support versus those who went through a 6-week program that included these elements. It guided family or care partner to do these things. Number one, notice positive events in your life. 2, create a gratitude journal. 3, practice daily mindfulness exercises. 4, positive reappraisal. That means reframing what's happening and, when possible, give it a more positive sort of outlook. The next one is attainable goals, just like making your bed, perhaps cooking a meal, but something that's attainable, doable, and that you can feel good about yourself. And lastly, acts of kindness. Intentionally doing something good for someone else can take you out of your sense of stress and helplessness and chaos. So helping others, in other words, can help yourself. The LEAF study. And I do have on the screen the reference if you want to read the entire study. It is published in Health Psychology 2019. And the primary author is Judith Moskowitz. Interesting. But it really does pull together all of these strategies that I've presented in one study. So I have on the screen what I perceive as a beautiful, perhaps summer, moving towards fall day, walking in the woods in this green scenery of of trees and sunlight as you walk down a path. Bring your mind to that right now. Imagine you're walking down this road. And now I'm going to have you take 4 deep breaths for me. Okay, so in through your nose and out through your mouth. 3 more times. In through your nose, out through your mouth, in through your nose, out through your mouth, and 1 more time. Notice, do you feel less heaviness in your chest? Notice, are you more aware of just being in this moment? And so it really does combine the use of sort of imagery, the use of breathing exercises, and taking your place in a beautiful natural scene. So we're learning to care before finding the cure, or more realistically, the cures. And it's my hope that at least one of these strategies is something that you might find new or interesting, or something that you are willing to integrate into your daily self-care. If any of you need or would like a one-to-one consultation, you're certainly invited to contact me. My private practice is called Through the Forest, and so my website is www.through, T-H-R-O-U, the forest with 2 R's, FORREST.com, or you can contact me at 773-704-1834. On behalf of the Dementia Society of America, I want to thank you and them for hosting this webcast. Without the DSA, I wouldn't be able to do this as well. And so please take time to look through their website. It's chock full of caregiver information. And if led, please consider giving a donation to support this organization. And so with the next slide, I am going to stop recording, but I'm going to open it up for questions from the audience. And you can, with the next slide, start keying in your questions.